Okay, so we can start. My name is Emil. I'll be your guide for today. You can take photos and ask questions at any time. Founded in 1857, Chateau Ksara was a monastery for the Jesuit priests. They had 20 hectares of land that they used to plant grapes to make sweet wine for the church and red wine for their own consumption. Following 2 incidents, the monastery was transformed into a wine-producing company. The first incident was quite dramatic. It was when 2 of the priests were killed on their way from Beirut to Zahle by Ottoman soldiers. So the Turkish wali at the time, to satisfy the French council, because the priests killed happened to be French, he offers the monastery 240 hectares of land. They then start introducing new types of grapes from France and making wine out of them, and it turned out to be successful, and that's how Chateau Ksara became the first winery in the Middle East. The second incident was the discovery of the caves. It was in 1898. There was the priests used to breed animals at the time, so there used to be a fox that would steal their chickens and come hide them in here. So one time they followed the fox and they discovered those caves, which were found to go back to the Roman times about 2,000 years ago. However, they were not that big. They were very narrow, only this big. But in World War I, 100 Lebanese families took refuge in those caves, and they worked to enlarge them for the 4 years of the war. They are 2 kilometers long, with a temperature that varies between 11 and 14 degrees Celsius all year long, and a humidity that goes up to 80%. Those conditions are considered to be ideal for wine conservation, and no artificial interference is needed. Okay? This way, please. So there are 300 barrels like the ones you see next to you. Those barrels are made out of French oak, and they are imported from Bordeaux in France. And though they are made out of French oak because this type of wood has proven to be the best for wine maturing. Every one of those barrels is used 4 times and 4 times only. Twice for premium wine and twice for our second choice called Réserve du Couvent. After that, they have to be replaced with newer barrels because the wood pores become closed and the wine can no longer absorb the oak vanilla taste. In addition, in the cellars that you saw on the sides, like the one over here, there is about 1 million bottles. However, those bottles are not for sale. They are a collection of small portions that the company takes of every vintage they make, and they keep them as a treasure for the company. With the oldest collection being actually right over there, and going back to year 1918. Yeah. So you probably noticed that there's a smell of anise over here. There is no arak here, but the factory doors are over there. So Chateau Ksara produces 3 million bottles of wine a year, out of which 60% are sold and consumed locally, and the remaining 40% are exported to 42 different countries around the world. So if you're interested in Chateau Ksara's products, there's a wall in the boutique that has all the countries that we export to, and you can look for your country and see if you can find the products. So because of the high humidity in the cave, there is a type of mold that develops, as you probably realize, on the walls, on the bottles, and everywhere. Unlike what many people think, this mold is very beneficial for the wine. It helps keep the cork of the bottle humid enough, which prevents air from going inside the bottle. Because if air goes into the bottle, it's ruined, and we call it the wine oxidization. It oxidizes. In addition, because bottles are placed in a horizontal way, also for the wine to stay in touch with the cork for the same purpose, the mold covers the bottle from the top, which prevents them from being affected by outside light. Because if wine is exposed to outside light, it allows them to become ruined. Also, you could realize the difference between barrels over here. When barrels are exposed more, when they stay in the caves more, they're exposed more to mold, and they have a much darker color. When, for example, newer barrels, like the ones over here, they have a brighter one.
The wood, what kind of wood? Is it
It's French oak.
French oak?
Yes. Okay, this way please. So if we shine a bit of light inside the cellar over here, you can see the mold that develops on the bottles that we just talked about. Can you repeat, please? So here you can take a look inside the cellar to see the mold that develops on the bottles that we just talked about.
Sorry, we were wondering, are these are man-made, right, the tunnels, of course?
Yes.
Okay, were they for security reason? I didn't get that part, or just to put wine? Was for safety during wars and everything?
No. So
During World
the
War
caves
I, yes.
go back to the Roman times, but no one knows what the Romans used them for.
Wow.
And they were much smaller than this, but the Lebanese who took refuge here in the war, they enlarged them in order to stay here.
Wow.
And now it is used for wine.
And do they have several entries and exits?
No, only the one that we came from and from the factory. Can anyone guess from which year those bottles over here are?
100 year maybe. No? 321?
Any other guess? No, that's just a number.
More or
From
less.
what century or from what year?
What guess from what year?
1940?
How much?
1918?
Okay.
40?
Other guesses?
1890?
They're actually from 2006.
Oh.
They are not very old.
And they are kept to be used later on?
Yeah, so the million bottles that are in the cellars, they are not for sale. The company just keeps them as a treasure for later.
But they
don't
can be
sell them.
drank later on? Or are they?
Some of them
Yes.
that are not way too old, like the 100-year-old ones, they're no longer good to drink.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like these two old.
Yeah, those are still good.
20, okay. What's the maximum? Do you have an idea for a bottle to be
It depends on the type of
Yes,
bottle.
in general.
And the oldest one for Chateau Ksara that can be kept is up to 30 years. So in 1973, the Jesuit priests received an order from the Vatican to sell the monastery because it was becoming more of a commercial business. And now Chateau Ksara is privately owned and operated by 4 Lebanese families.
I can add here, they figured, because I'm a Jesuit myself, they figured that a monastery cannot own a winery.
Of course. So that brings us to the end of our tour. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, who are the families who own the...
Assar, Sara, Sayegh, and Chawi.
So Ksara is one of them.
Sara, not Ksara.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, the families again?
Sara, Chawi, Assar, and Sayegh.
They're all from Zahle?
None of them are from Zahle.
That's why they call it Ksara.
Shawi is, I think.
No, Ksara
Combination between
is the name of the region, and the chateau is named after the region.
Okay.
The family is Sara, not Ksara, and it's later they became an owner. They were not an owner from the beginning.
Shawi
because-
is from Zahle, I think.
No.
No, not even.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.